Well, thank you, Chair Whitehouse, for holding this really important hearing, because the stakes are really high and the clock is ticking. We have, as we all know, till June 1st to raise the debt ceiling. That is weeks away. The American economy right now is heading for a cliff, and last week the House Republicans voted to drive it off full speed ahead. This should not be hard. When you are heading for a cliff, you turn the wheel. You don't say, well, I'll turn the wheel if you let me cut the brakes or disable the airbags or trash the engine. But that is essentially what the House Republicans are offering us. Mr. Chairman, you called it door one or door two, I believe, because House Republicans are saying, if you don't let us wreck the economy and whittle down essential government services to the point where we're laying off people like our air traffic controllers, then we will just wreck the economy by refusing to pay the bills instead. Make no mistake, it doesn't matter who you vote for, what state you live in, or what you make. If House Republicans get their way, it is going to make your life worse. The cuts they are proposing in the Default on America Act won't just kick families off food benefits or rip away housing support for veterans. It will gut funding that keeps our planes in the skies, trains on the rails, our food and medicine safe, our cops on the street, and helps get deadly fentanyl off of them. And despite Republicans protesting, the reality is that this bill will not protect veterans from cuts. Just read it. What House Republicans passed does nothing to protect the benefits and support that veterans have earned and are counting on to get housing or higher education or start a business. The Default on America Act doesn't even protect veterans' health care, one of our fundamental obligations to the men and women who put their lives on the line for our country. It just cuts across the board: medical research, child care, workforce training, disaster relief, border security, small business grants. Cut. That is their big idea. That is the Default on America Act that House Republicans are taking our economy hostage for. Except that's only half of it, because House Republicans are also demanding spending caps that will lock in even more cuts over the next decade. That is 10 years of our competitors who are going to be investing in their economies, growing stronger and gaining ground, while House Republicans tie our hands and force us to fall further and further behind. A lost decade for America. That is what MAGA Republicans are proposing. What House Republicans have voted for is one massive gift to the Chinese government. Because guess what? Our competitors are not debating whether to pay their debts or wreck their economy. They are not debating whether to invest in their future or cut and cap the investments that keep them competitive. They are doing everything they can to get ahead. So I'm asking my Republican colleagues here at the brink of economic calamity, do not let Speaker McCarthy's partisan hostage-taking win the day and lose the 21st century. Do not force an unprecedented economic crisis on our country in a vain attempt to slash funding for families and veterans and communities across America. Come to the table, work with us to simply pay our country's bills like we have so many times before, including 3 times under the last president. And then let us work together on our bipartisan spending bills that invest in America and keep us moving forward, which is, I will tell my committee members, exactly what we are focused on doing in the Senate Appropriations Committee. So with that, Mr. Zandi, or Dr. Zandi, let me ask you, can you speak to the potential macroeconomic damage of House Republicans' Default on America Act, both to our economy and our nation's competitive edge on the world stage over the next decade?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I think there's two broad macroeconomic issues. One I mentioned in my oral remarks, and that is the cuts are going to occur later this year under the legislation that's been passed by the House later this year in 2024, when the economy is going to be very, very fragile, at risk of going in recession, grappling with the higher interest rates, the banking crisis, and Now the drama related to the debt limits is starting to do damage in the financial markets, and I suspect will do significantly more damage before lawmakers act and increase the limit. So the risks here are quite significant in the near term. The second macroeconomic impact that I think is worth considering is if you do the arithmetic, the cuts to non-discretionary defense, discretionary non-defense spending will take the spending from 3.5% of GDP currently down to 2, and 3.5%, by the way, is less than its average over the past 50, 60 years. So this isn't really, this is a place where spending has remained very restrained and not grown more quickly than the economy has been equal to the economy. But under the Limit, Save, Grow Act, it would fall to 2% of GDP by the end of the decade. And of course, this goes to very significant cuts to all of the things that you described, everything from healthcare and education training, NASA, national parks, things that I think Americans count on as essential services and critical income support. And that would be incredibly difficult for the economy to digest. And at the end of the day, would not address our long-term unsustainable fiscal situation.
Thank you. And take away our competitive edge.
And severely limit our competitive edge, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Murray.